My daughter made me file a complaint for disgusting things she did to my ex. But now, in her commitment, she confesses that she lied to separate us from the look of surprise of her fiancé. One night, my daughter came to see me, full of tears. She trembled so much that I thought she was physically ill. I had never seen her like this, so broken, so scared. But when she finally spoke, my whole body was jealous. She said she couldn't keep quiet anymore. He said that my husband, his stepfather, had made her feel uncomfortable for a long time. His stepfather had been in my daughter's life since she was 8 years old. He had raised her, cared for her, and loved her as his own. I trusted him with everything, and now my daughter told me that she didn't feel safe with him. That same night, I made his stepfather leave. I was confused, wondering what was going on, trying to understand why I suddenly asked him to pack his things and leave. He kept asking why, but I refused to answer. I refused to let him see my daughter again. I called my brother, and he came immediately, being by my side, while he made it clear to his stepfather that there was nothing to talk about. He had to go, and he never wanted to see him again. When he realized that he was not going to back down, his confusion turned into despair. He begged me, swore that he did not understand, that he needed me to listen to him, but I was already dialing the police number. I didn't care what he had to say. My daughter was first. Once he left, everything moved fast. The police got involved, and although there were no immediate charges, the damage was already done. My family joined my side, telling me that I was doing the right thing. My mother was devastated, and my brother was furious. And my daughter's biological father suddenly appeared in ways that he had never done before. He told me that he always knew that something was wrong. He said that that's why my daughter had never really accepted his stepfather. And I, drowned in guilt, believed him. My daughter seemed happy to have her biological father close. She smiled more. She seemed lighter. And although I was still recovering from the destruction of my marriage, I was convinced that that was what she needed. His stepfather, on the other hand, did not stop trying to contact me. Even after blocking him, even after taking him completely out of our lives, he continued to fight. He sent letters, emails, and messages through common friends, begging me to just talk to him. But I didn't. I had already made a decision. I thought I had done the right thing. I thought I had protected my daughter. I had no idea that the real nightmare was yet to come. Because after that night, everything changed. My ex-husband left our lives. The complaint was filed, and my daughter became my only focus of attention. I worked more than ever to make sure that she would never lack a father figure, making sure that I had everything I needed. He received therapy. We moved to another town. For years, I lived with the belief that I had done the right thing, that I had protected her, and that I was by her side when she needed me the most. But there was always something strange. At first, I thought it was the trauma. She had been distant, but that was to be expected. I was a teenager at the time, and the whole situation had been a lot for her. She often got angry with me, locked herself up, and barely talked about what had happened. I thought she needed time. Even when she refused to meet with the therapist assigned by the court after a few sessions, I thought it was just her way of dealing with it. When she was not interested in talking about what happened, I assumed that she simply wanted to move on. I left her. I didn't pressure her. I thought I was doing the right thing by giving her space. The years passed, and our relationship never healed the way I thought it would. We were not at all distant, but there was always a wall between us, one that I never fully understood. She graduated, got a good job, and eventually met someone. When she introduced me to her fiancé, I felt something that I had not felt in a long time: hope. More importantly, she seemed genuinely happy for the first time in years. But instead of being the night that marked a new beginning, it was the night that destroyed everything, because it is when I finally knew the truth. The party was beautiful. She and her fiancé had rented a cozy event hall. It was not very crowded, but the close family and closest friends of the boyfriends were there. Then, my daughter began to talk to everyone. She thanked everyone for attending, talked about how much she loved her fiancé, and shared some funny stories about their relationship. But then she turned to me. She said that there was something that she had been keeping to herself for years, something that she felt she had to say before starting this new chapter in her life. And then she said it. She admitted, in front of everyone, that the accusations she had made against my ex-husband, those that destroyed our family, that led to a police case and isolated him from everyone, were a lie. It was not true. She had invented everything. She said she had done it because she could not stand the idea that someone who was not her biological father was in my life. She laughed, as if it were a silly childhood joke she had made, and then she had the audacity to say that she hoped that we could all move on now that the truth was out. As if it were nothing, as if it had not destroyed lives, as if it had not destroyed the reputation of a man, ruined a marriage, and left damage in its wake. His fiancée, standing next to her, looked horrified. He was not the only one. The energy in the room changed completely, but before he could react, his fiancé did. He asked her if she was kidding, because it was not funny at all, and was making everyone nervous. She just smiled and said that she had always wanted us to be just her and her father, that she thought it was the only way. Then she turned to me, hoping that I would do something. But what was I going to do? Laugh, hug her, thank her for this twisted confession? I couldn't even look at her. I turned around and left that room. I heard her call me, but I didn't stop. I got outside, breathing with difficulty, with my mind accelerated by everything I had just heard. And that's when I realized this was not just about what she had done to me, it was about what she had done to him. The man with whom I had divorced, whom I had driven away from, and whom I had turned into a villain for something he never did. It was so bad that I don't remember driving home. I did it on autopilot. I got to my entrance, but I couldn't get the idea of getting out of the car. My body felt frozen, as if it were in the middle of an immobilizing ray. My phone vibrated in the passenger seat. I didn't even have to look to know who it was. She, probably calling to soften things up. I let it ring until it stopped. A second later, it vibrated again, over and over again. On the fifth call, I turned off the phone and stayed silent. I thought I had already felt pain before. When I went through the divorce, when I was in that court watching my ex-husband be investigated for a crime that never happened, when I saw how the light in his eyes went out, replaced by something empty and broken. But this was something completely different. This was a betrayal in its purest form, and I had no idea what to do with it. When I finally entered the house, I was still on autopilot. My hands moved to take off my coat. My feet took me to the kitchen. But I was still trying to understand everything, that it made sense that my daughter had lied about something like that, because no matter how many years had passed, I had been an accomplice to what happened to my ex-husband. I had believed in my daughter without questioning it. I had turned my back on him, destroyed his life, and I never doubted that I was doing the right thing. I couldn't fix what I had already done, but I could take responsibility. And that meant one thing: I had to get in touch with him. I had no idea where he was, how he had been living, or even if he would be willing to talk to me. I spent the next hour looking for him. He had no presence on social networks, which did not surprise me. Finally, I found an old friend of his. I sent a message, without even knowing if I would receive an answer. To my surprise, only 10 minutes passed before he answered me. He sent me a phone number. When I told him who it was, he remained silent. I prepared myself to hang up, to scream, to demand from me because I dared to call him after all these years. Instead of that, he laughed. He said he was wondering when he would finally discover it. I asked him what he meant by that. He told me that he had always known that the truth would eventually come out, that such a big lie could not be buried forever, that he had waited, not because he wanted justice, but because he wanted me to live with a choice he had made. I told him that I felt it, but it was not enough. It would be nothing, but it was all I had. He remained silent for a long time, and then he asked me why I realized now. I told him everything that had happened. He told me that after everything that happened, he had learned to live with what happened. That he had rebuilt his life as best he could, although it had never been the same. He had lost everything: his career, his reputation, the people he once called family, and he had done it only because of me. I told him that he was right, and that he wanted to do things right now. He answered me, "What does that mean?" I did not know what to answer him. I did not even know where to start fixing this. After hanging up, I stayed there for a long time. I had taken the first step, but what could I do now to try to solve this? Or at least, improve it for him? There was no way to fix this. There was no way to undo the years of suffering that the lies of my daughter had caused. But there was responsibility, and that was something I had to face. I checked my phone, knowing that there were probably dozens of missed calls and text messages from my daughter. In all, I wondered where I was, if I was going to come back to talk to her, and that I did not understand why I could not leave it behind after so many years. I was not ready to talk to her. I did not know if I would ever be, but I knew something for sure: she is not the victim in this story, and I will not let her pretend to be. Now she asked me what I can do to help my ex-husband. I can't fix what happened years ago, but I can do something to make up for it. What advice do you have? Update 1. I have been receiving some advice, and I have taken the first steps to try to improve this for my ex-husband. The next morning, I woke up with more missed calls than I cared to count. My daughter had been relentless. Message after message, voicemail after voicemail, everyone desperately trying to rethink the situation. I still haven't answered him. It's not my concern how he feels. It's not that I was sure what to say either. I had thought that contacting him had been the most difficult step, but now I was realizing that facing my daughter was going to be much worse. By noon, she had turned up at my door. I heard the doorbell, followed by some frenetic blows, plus her voice through the door. She called me, demanding that I at least talk to her. I sat at the kitchen table, motionless. She had no idea how much I had already given her. I spent years by her side, believing in her, fighting for her, turning my back on someone who had never hurt her because I trusted her. And I thought this was something we could simply talk about. The blows got stronger, and she said she knew I was at home. I didn't answer. She said she never wanted things to go so far, that she had been a girl, that she was emotional, that she had made a mistake, but she did it because she loved me. Love me? That word seemed like an offense to me when it came out of her mouth. She loved me so much that she had taken away my options, dictated my life, and ruined the life of another person without any remorse. He said he thought he would understand, after he had given me a few hours to calm down. I wasn't ready to face her, not yet. So I did the only thing she would never have expected. I walked to the door and turned off the doorbell. The sound was soft, but she heard it. He was wondering if he was really going to ignore her like that. Then, finally, he said that if he wanted to be dramatic, that was my business, but he wasn't going to stay there all day. I listened to her as she went down the stairs furiously and left. The next day, I met with a lawyer. I explained the situation to him as best I could. The lawyer listened to me patiently and then asked me a simple question: what did he want to do? The truth was that I did not know. But I knew one thing for sure. I wanted to make it clear to my daughter that this was not something that could be easily escaped. She had ruined a life, and she had to make up for it in some way. The lawyer insisted, saying that there were legal ways to protect me if she decided to take things further. He asked me if I wanted to do something against her for what I had done to my ex-husband. I told the lawyer that I needed to think about it, and he handed me a folder and told me to take my time, but not to take too long. These types of decisions were not made any easier. And that night, my daughter called again, and this time I answered, not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed her to listen to me. At first, she sounded relieved, as if she had won something just to get me to answer. She said she knew she needed space, but she wanted me to know that she never intended to hurt me. I let her speak, and then, when she finished, I told her that I did not trust her. I told her that I did not know if I would ever do it again, and I told her that I was not sure even if I wanted her to be in my life. I told her that I did not want to be her mother anymore, and I was ashamed that she was my daughter. She remained silent, and then her voice broke when she asked me if I really meant it. I said yes. She began to cry, begging me not to reject her for a mistake she made when she was a girl. I told her that this was not a mistake. This was an election. She could have been a girl when she did that, but she lived knowing what she did as an adult and never thought of solving this. She only found out about this now because she thought it would be a good idea to clear her conscience at a moment of celebration, and that I would forgive her without further ado. Now I have turned off my phone because I don't want her to keep calling me. I need to think what to do, whether to take this path that the lawyer has given me or not, which I think I will take. But anyway, I don't think that's enough to fix my ex's life. That is, this lawsuit will only be my part, for the damage her lie emotionally caused me, but nothing else. She needs to be sued for slander and defamation. But that is something that only my ex could be, as the lawyer explained to me, and if he hasn't done it so far, I don't know if he will. Update 2. My daughter is a narcissist. It is the only way to explain her behavior. What happens with people like her is that they don't apologize because they really feel it. They apologize because they don't like the consequences. And I wasn't going to let her get away from them. I spent a week without any contact, and I spent my days trying to rebuild my life, trying to fill the void that she had left. It wasn't easy. I spent so many years fighting for her, protecting her, sacrificing myself for her. Letting go of that instinct was not something I could do overnight, but it reminded me over and over again that she had been the one who broke that tie, not me. She had taken a knife to murder our relationship, the day she decided that her hatred for my ex-husband was worth more than my happiness. The day she decided to burn everything just to get away with hers. And now she was standing in the ashes, surprised that no one was reaching out to her. Then, one afternoon, she was there at my door again. For a brief moment, I wondered if this was the occasion, if I was finally there to take responsibility, to show a real remorse, and to stop making excuses. But then she opened her mouth, and the first thing she said was, I don't deserve this. I had spent days thinking about everything that had happened, and that was her conclusion. I looked at her and slapped her. I know that a father should not hit a son, but at that moment, she gave me so much impotence what she said, which was the only thing that crossed my mind. She was surprised by what I did, since I was not there waiting to receive one. She told me she was my daughter. I said that no longer meant anything. She said she had been young and stupid. I said that did not erase what she had done. She said she thought I would overcome it. I said that our differences were far from being overcome, and that I did not have faith that I would ever overcome it. She asked me if there was anything I could do to fix this. My answer was that I should start by going to apologize and pray that my ex would give it to him, and then make, in the most public way possible, a statement to try to clean up the reputation of that man, and pray even harder for the reputation to recover, because otherwise he will have to live with the conscience, if he has, of having ruined the life of a good man. She looked at me and made faces, as if she was not going to do any of that. But I told her that only after that, perhaps I considered forgiving her. She told me that we should look for another way to solve this, but that Niloka was going to do something like that would ruin her life. I told her that those were her consequences, that I could accept them as an adult person, or that I was still a girl as she says. Her answer was that as her daughter, she could not put a man above her, but I told her that at this moment I could not see her, and much less see her as a daughter, that I would start doing things right, and perhaps in the future there is some possibility of rebuilding the relationship. Until then, nothing. Then I closed the door. I don't know what I'm going to do now exactly, but my mission is to improve at least the life of my ex. I cared little about what happens now with my daughter. So I know her wedding is in danger or has been completely cancelled, but that is not my problem. I have more important things to take care of. Update 3. A month has passed, and in that time, I have done exactly what I had promised to do. I have taken measures to undo the damage that my daughter had caused, to finally put things in their place. It has not been easy, but I was not going to let things continue as they have been so far, even if it has had consequences for my daughter, but I will talk about that later. Before I had a new visit, who was not my daughter, but for a moment, I thought that yes, because I was waiting for her to beg me again. It was his fiancé, or rather, his ex-fiancé. And he saw it just as badly as I did, because at this time the truth is that I have slept and eaten very little with everything that has happened, and it seems that he feels that way too. I told him it would happen. We sat down in the living room. The air felt heavy with unspoken words. Finally, I broke the silence and told him that I felt it. I felt a lot that they would have dragged him into this nightmare. I felt a lot that he would have been caught in the crossfire of my daughter's selfishness. I felt a lot that he would have almost joined someone capable of such destruction. He smiled at me sadly and little, and said that he appreciated it, but he was not there for an apology. He was there to tell me in person that the engagement had officially ended. I already assumed it from the rumors and his reaction at the party, but I thanked him for coming here to tell me personally. He said that after all, he could no longer trust her. That even if she swore over and over again that she had changed, she would always wonder if she was capable of something worse. That kind of doubt is not something that a marriage can survive. And honestly, I understood it, and I told him. And then, for a moment, we sat there. Two people united by a storm that neither of them asked for. Then, he moved in his seat, and said that there was another reason why he had come. I looked at him, waiting. And then he said something I didn't expect. He asked me to publicly clear the name of my ex-husband. For a moment, I looked at him, astonished. Not because I didn't agree, it was even something I was thinking of doing, but because I didn't expect him to care so much. He explained to me that when he first found out the truth, he investigated the case of my ex-husband. He saw the damage that the accusation had caused him, and he realized that, although my daughter had confessed in front of a room full of people, that would not be enough to erase the stain on the name of my ex-husband. Not legally, not socially. People believe what they want to believe, and some would still see it as a monster, no matter how much evidence there was. On the contrary, he said that it was not fair, that if my ex-husband was going to have any opportunity to move forward, he needed official justice. I told him that I was already in it. I explained to him that after my daughter's confession, I contacted the cameraman who had recorded the engagement party. I got the images, clear and indisputable proof of his words said in his own voice in front of dozens of witnesses, and I had already started the legal process to officially clear the name of my ex-husband. I was also ready to do something about the social. I contacted lawyers, checked the police records, did everything I could to make sure that his innocence is seen by the greatest number of people. He said he was glad to hear that. And then he told me that if he needed any kind of financial, legal, or any other support, he would do everything possible to help me, that even if he was no longer connected to my daughter, he was not going to sit idly by letting an innocent man suffer for something he had not done. I told him that I appreciated it, but that this was something that I needed to solve on my own. I need to pay not only with my money, but also with my time. I see it as a kind of penance for having participated in this. No matter if I was deceived, the damage is done. Later that night, I sat down with my brother to review the latest updates. He had been the only member of the family with whom I wanted to keep in touch during all this. He was there when I went to the lawyer's office. He helped me review the legal papers, and most importantly, he had been keeping the rest of the family informed so that I did not have to do it. I knew they were talking about it. I knew they had their opinions. I knew that some were probably still trying to understand how my daughter had done something so monstrous, but I did not have the patience or the energy to explain it to anyone. I was exhausted, and all I cared about was fixing what could be fixed. So I let my brother take care of the rest. This morning, I received an email from my lawyer. The legal proceedings were progressing. The process to clear the name of my ex-husband was officially underway. Not only that, I am suing my daughter for damages to my person, and I plan to make public her video once that has been solved. I don't know if it will be legal, but I don't care. I just want that to not hinder the legal process to clear the name of my ex, and then I will release it. I would have preferred my own daughter to do all this, but she doesn't care. I can't sit idly by. Update for the time it took me to write this update, which I hope is the end, has to do with the fact that cleaning a person's reputation takes a long time, but I was focused on that, instead of writing on Reddit. I'm sorry if I made you wait, but I think that with how long this update will be, I can compensate for that. First of all, with my lawyer, we have been able to fix any legal problem that my ex-husband any loose end that was legal, and that could prevent my ex-husband from doing something as basic as obtaining a passport, or whatever. Now his file has been completely clean, because there are no longer any causes related to my daughter, and that is important. During this process, I received the call from my ex, because he received news that he was trying to help him and called me to thank me. I told him not to do it until he finished everything, but that he could help me while he helps himself while he denounces my daughter for defamation. I know it sounds strange that a mother is encouraging another person to sue her daughter, but it was a necessary step to continue cleaning her name, even when that could have consequences for me. His answer was that he has always avoided lawyers, because this time defending myself from my daughter legally has left him with a trauma. I don't blame him, even if I would have done the easiest things for him. Anyway, I assured him that I was not going to give up, and I would do everything necessary. And part of that was the lawsuit for damage against my daughter, not for what he did precisely when he was younger, since it cannot be achieved by a lawsuit at that age. I think I have not clarified it well in my previous publications, but here I do. I sued her for the damage she caused me to have kept her alive for years, even when she was an adult, situations in which we talk about the subject and she preferred to continue with the lie. Although the specific fact happened when she was a girl, continuing with lies, as a kind of emotional scam after entering adulthood, is demanding. Not by much, because we have only been able to get close to $5,000, which, among lawyer expenses, has been practically zero. But I have taken care of sending the check to my ex as a form of compensation, even if that money has finally come out of my pocket. He has not yet charged it, but I keep the $5,000 until the day he wants to do so. He called me to tell me that it was not necessary, but I think that, although it is a fairly low figure that does not reward everything that has happened, at least it is a symbolic figure that corresponds to it. He said not to charge it, and I don't know what he did with the check, but anyway, that money will be waiting for him. I was also planning to make public the video of my daughter's confession, who did not even know that the cameraman was filming. Apparently, I had told him not to film during the speech, but he did anyway. He thought that if the client would regret it later and wanted that scene, at least he would have it and save the day. On the other hand, in this state, it is allowed to record people, but there was a gray area legally speaking because it was not a public place. However, technically my daughter was not the client, but the parents of her fiancé. Although it is not common to record a commitment party, they thought to use this material for a video that they would project at the wedding, along with other clips of their childhoods. We had their written approval to present it as proof, and that allowed us to win the case and legally clean my ex. But I didn't even have to make it public, because after my daughter's fiancé officially broke his commitment, there were a series of problems between them. She made a post where she made herself seen as the victim and her fiancé replied to her with his truth, which is the truth that we all know. He told her that he did not want to marry someone who did those things, and describe them. But she defended herself by saying that she did not need to invent things to earn the sympathy of the people, who both knew the truth. The most curious thing is to see how some friends of my daughter, who were at the commitment party, defended my daughter when they knew the truth. Anyway, his fiancé, who I know is now ex, but to write it shorter, made the video public. He knew about our legal strategy, but he was too angry with her to let it pass. Luckily, the video had already been accepted as proof, so it had no major consequences. It could have gone wrong, but it didn't, so I'd rather not get mad about it. The important thing is that everything goes well, and that the video serves to clean both the legal and social image of my ex. In the middle of all this, there was much more drama, with my daughter accusing me of betraying her, for helping my ex, pursuing her, and even spitting because they had filmed her when she said no. He even tried to sue the cameraman, but my lawyer helped him respond to his lawsuit so that they would dismiss her quite quickly. At this moment, I have no contact with my daughter, and she has had to close her Instagram account so that people do not continue harassing her. But I do not think it is a bad price to pay for everything she has done, because if I had not been younger, I could have received time in prison for the false complaint. So you can feel very lucky that you only have to miss a wedding, pay those $5,000, and lose your reputation. That's how busy they have been these months. Now they understand why it has taken me a long time to find time to write here, especially because things change so quickly that a publication would be outdated in days. But yes, that's all. Addition, my ex has decided to accept the money, but if it is sent to a beneficial cause of his choice. What have I already done? As little as I have spoken in this time, he feels happy that his life is improving. To be honest, I admire the strength of that man, who is part of the charm that led me to marry him in the first place, and one of the many things for which I think I can never forgive my daughter.